Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back from 1980, directed by Irvin Kershner, and of course the second film in the original Star Wars trilogy. So yes, we are finally back to discuss another Star Wars film. It's been a while, but regardless, I'm ready to now resume the Star Wars reviews on the channel, and recently going through the Star Wars films again a few months ago. I thought it'd be perfect to kind of finally do that now, and yes, starting with The Empire Strikes Back, a very, very special film to me. So yes, there will be a spoiler warning for this film. If you haven't seen this, of course, just be warned, there will be spoilers throughout, and there will be some spoilers for, I guess, as well, A New Hope, just talking on some plot points for that film, so the original Star Wars film. If you haven't seen these films, either of them, I simply recommend seeing them first and then come back to this discussion here, and we can go from there, and you can share your thoughts in the comments about Star Wars. So yes, with all that said, let's discuss this film, and where do we begin with The Empire Strikes Back? Certainly a film that is very, very special to me, and just very, very early memories of seeing the original trilogy, on VHS and on TV as well. But the VHS special editions, of this original trilogy, the gold set, that amazing box set there. I have very vivid memories of just looking at this set and taking the individual VHS out of this and looking at the posters, seeing these films out of order as well as in order, going through the trilogy, just at times on loop every few days, just kind of watching these this trilogy, and just completely obsessed with this universe. And for me, the original trilogy is its own thing. And to me, it's just easily, for me, one of the greatest in cinema history, and by far my love for these three films is way beyond the rest of the Star Wars films, personally. And it's just, this is what to me Star Wars is at its best, and it's just completely separate. This is the magic of Star Wars, and The Empire Strikes Back. Perhaps as a kid you don't necessarily go, that one's my favourite. If someone comes up to you, you don't always go, this is how I rank them. But as far back as I remember ranking films and all this, I always kind of thought The Empire Strikes Back was my favourite. So that was quite a few years. It wasn't when I was 4 or 5 when I was watching these films. First watching them, it's a bit later than that, but I always remember kind of thinking The Empire Strikes Back, is my favourite, and obviously A New Hope, the original Star Wars film, is so special to me as well. But The Empire Strikes Back, in pretty much every single way, tops that film, and I think truly this is the most Star Wars-like Star Wars film. That's a very easy way to kind of sum it up, and it's the one that represents to me. My personal love for the Star Wars universe the most, the best, in the purest form, in the most spiritual way, and it's the most fun film for me in the series, and it also is by far the most moving and spiritual experience. So yes, I will say in this review why I love this film so much, and we'll go through this film, and once again, seeing it a few months ago, I was completely blown away. This film is, etched into my memory, of course, and despite that, every time I see this film, just in so many different ways, it just blows me away even more, and if not the greatest film of the 80s, if it's not that, I think it's easily the second greatest film of the 80s, and just another particular Spielberg film that is, so close to this, but this is just cinema. It really is. When I think cinema, it's this. It's a couple of other films in the same kind of hand, really, that I think of those films. I would say, The Empire Strikes Back. This truly is one of the most magical, mysterious, and just fun, consistently fun films that I've ever seen. And it's a blockbuster, the platinum standard to me of how a blockbuster can be, completely entertaining, but also, kind of moving, human, and have characters that are so wonderfully realised. The acting, the casting across the board, here is just perfection, and really it has a sequel as well. Many people have said, things about how this sequel is, perhaps the greatest in cinema, and how you can do, at least in a franchise like this, a sequel perfectly and kind of top the original. And as I have said, it's pretty much in every way better than A New Hope. We'll say certainly the absence of Obi-Wan, is definitely A New Hope is that kind of thing. It's unique. It's got Obi-Wan, as one of the main characters in that film, and also Luke, Leia, and Han all kind of meeting up, and it's got that initial kind of magic, that charm, and the kind of wowing nature to that, and obviously the introduction to different characters like Darth Vader. So this film hasn't quite got that, but really, regardless of that, and the fact that the one thing, yes, Obi-Wan is not, a main character in this. He is obviously in this film as a ghost, as we know, and he does show up at pivotal moments, but it isn't quite, him with Luke throughout the film and stuff like this. So, other than that, really, that particular thing for me, every single thing and every other element, this film tops A New Hope in a considerable way, and it really is one of those rare films. And for me, it could be the very, very best second installment in a franchise. So that's how much I love this film. So yes, in this film we have, of course, the Empire once again pursuing their Rebel Alliance, and we have as well, at the same time as Leia and Han kind of doing their own thing throughout the film, we have, getting on adventures, and of course, really the romance really developing there in this film. We also have Luke going to Dagobah eventually, and it's become, of course, more powerful with the Force, and yes, eventually becoming a Jedi Knight. That is the aim, of course, under the instruction of Yoda. Of course, the spirit, the Force spirit of course, Obi-Wan is the one who tells Luke to kind of go to Dagobah, and it's very interesting how, a wonderful moment we have Obi-Wan appearing before Luke in the snow there. Just a great moment, and of course saying go to Dagobah, and that is where Luke goes. And the middle portion of the film especially is Luke training, of course, with Yoda, and I think really this is the most magical part of the film for me. This is the defining moment, and I think really the change here, this kind of act here for the franchise, and obviously you could argue as well the final act. The final act is probably even better than the middle of this film, and it gets really, each act is better than the last, but the middle portion of this film, is just so magical. It's the most spiritual. The Force is truly felt here, and this is a step up even from A New Hope for me in the way the Force is described, and just the feeling of this truly is something else. It brings tears to my eyes every time I see this film. Of course, the wonderful way in which we have Yoda appearing, of course, and Luke being trained up as a Jedi Knight, and not quite completing in that sense his training, but then regardless going charging ahead to kind of confront Vader in that wonderful final act. But yes, the first act of this film I love so much. The action here, the production is stunning. I love seeing this entirely unique action set piece that is the Battle of Hoth, and these different environments being introduced to this planet. It's very, very different to A New Hope. It's not quite the same, kind of the space battles, for example, and all this, and obviously Tatooine is very, very different compared to obviously Hoth and later Dagobah, and all these different locations that we're introduced to. So yes, a very, very different flavour, but more of a continuation, this first act of A New Hope. And then, of course, when we start to have different mysterious moments cropping up, Obi-Wan's ghost, the Force spirit of Obi-Wan there, him appearing before Luke, that is really the moment when the film starts to build with the mystery and setting up different threads, and of course after that first act, which truly is stunning, of course, and Vader, I love the moment when Vader kind of is just about to capture Han and Leia and all those involved, and just about there, he's very close, and he is essentially obviously throughout the rest of the film pursuing these characters, and they escape. They're forced to evacuate the base, and yes, basically once again we have the rebels being in peril and on the run, and through that we have Han and Leia, their bond growing, and different adventures they have together. It truly is unforgettable, the way in which we have a set of scenarios the characters are forced into, that then allows them to this romance to develop and come full circle, and in this film, and of course the comedy to come back from that as well. That's one of the greatest things about this romance, we'll say as well, Han and Leia. It's the comedy and the way it kind of works to enhance this, make it more believable and human, and Leia's responses to Han throughout, and then the final moment even, when they exchange those words there, and you know, that wonderful line, I know, when Han is kind of put into this carbonate freeze, you know, that is just, what a way to kind of perfectly, you know, close almost this romance in this film, but leave it open, of course, and, you know, just one of my absolute favourite romances in cinema history, and those wonderful moments in A New Hope between the two characters, it's just, it's kind of developed to such a level here that it's just one step up for sure. And yes, just throughout this film we have romance, we have comedy. That is one of the things. The comedy in this film for me is the greatest in the Star Wars films, and it never takes away from, you know, this kind of more darker, more serious tone of the film. And also, even though this film is the darkest in the way of the franchise and more involving in the mythology, more character driven, it's not overly serious. In fact, as I say, it is the most comedic. It works the best, you know, in the Star Wars films with me, and it is, you know, just that wonderful blend that Kershner, Lucas, and all those involved created of the comedy and the darkness and the character moments and all these, you know, kind of moments of lore building, even more so, and mythology deepening. That I think that balance is the key here, the key ingredient, and the reason why this film works so well. The tone is perfect throughout. The flow, you know, it's just unbelievable. This film is edited to perfection. The writing by, of course, George Lucas, mainly here, you know, it truly is stunning. We have talked about before in the last review how he had, you know, an idea of this whole saga really originally before these films were released, and it is just truly, once again, you feel his vision, you feel his universe, and you know, he just truly, the screenwriting here for all that's involved, it is unbelievable. It really is one of the very, very greatest scripts in cinema. And New Hope, of course, was, you know, just that lightning in a bottle feeling. The script included, you know, I personally feel it was one of the best scripts in cinema, and The Empire Strikes Back is considerably better. So I think that says it all really there. And character moments. Moments we have introduction to different planets, of course, locations, and of course, as well, you know, getting to this sooner, but Lando, of course, you know, the character of Lando Calrissian, just we feel, you know, that these characters, him and Han, for example, knew each other. You know, you feel that kind of backstory, even though there is not, you know, tons of, for example, scenes and, you know, kind of exposition dedicated to that. You know, it's just felt, it really is, and it's just what we don't see, and just the way that the characters, the subtle moments between the characters that kind of explains all we need to hear. Of course, we do have a variety of different characters introduced in this film, Boba Fett as well, but once again, it's the minimalist kind of exposition with different characters like this, side characters, that kind of, it shows that less is more very often, and it's just very, very short film in terms of what's going on here. It's just over 2 hours, so just you know, just the flow of this film, you know, and just leaving it on, wanting to know more. That note at the end there, but you know, everything is said in this film that needs to be said between the characters, introducing of characters, backstory, exposition, the mythology of Star Wars, the lore, the world building. It's all just perfectly done here, and of course, this film, you know, visually, it's just something to behold. Obviously, the first act is wonderful in its own way, but when we get to Dagobah, obviously the second act mainly has Luke going to Dagobah to learn the ways of the Force, as we said. This is when it truly becomes The Empire Strikes Back, as you know, as I think of it, and it just, when we have Luke kind of crash landing Dagobah, you know, this mystery, this wonderful sense of the unknown here, this wonderful new mysterious planet of Dagobah, the swamps, you know, and all this, the mist, you know, I just really think this whole location here is just some of the greatest, you know, sets in cinema, and just the lighting here, you know, every single thing that is, you know, an element of cinema to create, you know, a world, a new world, of course, and to show a particular, you know, kind of way of life, and, you know, this being kind of this isolated place for Yoda, of course. You know, it's just, everything works in harmony here. It works so wonderfully, and, you know, of course, when we first see Yoda, this is truly a magical moment. We have Yoda appearing to Luke. Of course, Luke not thinking at first this is Yoda. Obviously, you know, he's very, you know, looks can be deceiving kind of thing, and not judging a book by its cover. That whole kind of idea here. And Luke, you know, at first is very flippant. He doesn't think this is Yoda, and he's quite frustrated, you know, just these deep, you know, kind of feelings he has, but also just these very natural, you know, in the moment feelings that he has, you know, and the frustration he has, of course, with crash landing there, and that this isn't Yoda, it's all going wrong here, and then Yoda, of course, revealing his true self to Luke, that moment there, and the music, and just every single thing about that moment, it's just so magical. And then, of course, Luke becoming more attentive here and focusing more on this, and then that's when the film once again reveals itself very organically. This film progresses and, you know, just starts revealing different characters and, you know, feelings. Very, very patient, despite being very short and having to pack in, as I say, a lot, you know, of stuff here. You know, a lot of lore and set pieces. It really is a marvel to behold this entire trilogy. Actually, saying that, you know, just how wonderfully, you know, how perfectly they, you know, jam-packed so much lore, and just, you know, what you would think would take maybe 4 hours for a film like Star Wars to actually have to, you know, for it to have to actually fully be able to cover every single base, but, you know, it does it in just over 2 hours. And even Return of the Jedi, a very, very short film for what it's kind of doing, and that is just something to behold. The editing is key, and the script, you know, here it's so perfect. It's so, you know, kind of fine-tuned, but, you know, just human. You know, it's just, first and foremost, it's got the characters at the foreground, and obviously trying to be entertaining, these films, but, you know, really caring about the characters and the universe, and you're kind of being very patient with this, but, you know, never feeling like, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's rushing, for example, you know, and never feeling like it's kind of focusing too much on a particular character or location. It's wonderfully balanced out, you know, just editing between the different characters. Obviously, Vader as well, being instructed at points in this film by the Emperor. And of course, our first glimpse to the Emperor himself, you know, that is just so wonderful. Obviously, the special edition, which is the only, you know, versions I've ever seen actually of these films entirely, I would say that, you know, obviously has the Emperor being more visibly shown here, and, you know, that's cool to see. And you know, just seeing the Emperor though, you know, just talking to Vader, you know, just on the hologram there, you know, and Vader kneeling before him. It's one of these aspects of this film that kind of shows that not all was meets the eye with the first film, and obviously Vader, yes, he is forced to in this film, you know, kind of become more of a leader and become more of a presence. You know, kind of, he is more of a darker character in that sense in this film. But we do have someone above even Vader, you know, calling the shots in that sense. So it kind of opens up this universe even more in this film, and you know, the Emperor is not, you know, shown too much at all in this. He is obviously more focused on in Return of the Jedi, but, you know, despite that, you know, his presence is felt so much, and you know, it's just that perfect interaction between him and Vader there. But yes, we have different characters being introduced, character development happening, of course, all at once. Different locations, all these new locations, and, you know, visual moments to kind of marvel at, and it never feels like it's just the flow has been broken here. And obviously, as I say, Luke in Dagobah starts to learn the true ways of the Force. I love the way in which this is done. It's just movie magic, this whole kind of sequence on Dagobah. You know, it really is. And Yoda himself, you know, if someone asked me, you know, what's your favourite characters in the Star Wars universe, and really in cinema, certainly in my personal top 10 favourites, we have Luke Skywalker, we have Han Solo, we have Yoda, and we have Darth Vader, especially, you know, these four particular, and Obi-Wan as well. So there we go, you know, just Star Wars does characters better than most, and I think Yoda could be, I wouldn't really know how to at the moment order, you know, it's very hard for me to order the characters, actually, in that sense, but in some ways Yoda is actually my favourite character in the entire saga, and in this film he is so charming, you know, so cute, obviously, and you know, Frank Oz, you know, just doing wonders with this, and you know, just I think the way in which you know, the puppet of Yoda in this one is my personal favourite. You know, I just love, you know, this, and it's just right. It has, you know, that lovability, you know, that kind of, you know, that bumbling old, you know, kind of being, obviously, and you know, almost childlike as well, and it's just a wonderful use of puppetry here, and just as well, I think the way in which Yoda interacts with Luke and obviously R2 as well, just comedic moments, very very charming, but not too silly, and it's just it truly is. It's like E.T., for example, where we have the comedy just being there to ground this, make it more believable, and not going too far at all. And Yoda in this film is not too silly. He is just right, and so charming and cute, as I say, and also when it needs to be. This film, it's just so it's just so focused, on this serious tone in this one. I love how Yoda is introduced very comedically, first, but then of course, he's the one that reveals the true lore of this film. And it's very, very, truly something to behold. The way in which this tone is just so perfect, and Yoda then training Luke, and the way in which he is introduced to the final moments when he basically parts ways with Luke. What a genius piece of filmmaking this is, and obviously perhaps the greatest moment of this film for me is the one that I always come back to, and obviously the reveals and the duel at the end is a contender as well, but perhaps the scene when Yoda lifts the X-Wing out of the swamp, that truly is, for me, for a number of reasons, potentially, what I would say it could be the greatest moment in a film. Really, it's up there with different films I would always cite, and it's certainly one of the very very best. And just the way in which Luke is kind of doubting himself, and this is one of the things this film does. It has characters. It's such an organic way, reacting to things in a human, where they're doubting themselves. It's much more complex than the other Star Wars films to me, and we have Luke doubting himself there, in his mastery of the Force, thinking he'll never do this, and then of course one of the main themes of the franchise, hope, coming through, and Yoda showing perhaps it takes sometimes other people to show you, things, and to actually reveal hope to you, and then of course you can internalize that, and that moment when Yoda then just takes over and shows Luke, simply shows him, what he's saying. Not to try, but to do, and him lifting the X-Wing there, and the music, for me, is the greatest really in Star Wars here. This piece of music, Yoda and the Force, him lifting the X-Wing there, it's a moment that brings tears to my eyes, and it just gives me shivers every time I see this, and I could watch it a day after, and then I could rewind it and play it again, and then go later on and look at it again, and just every single time it gives me shivers. It gives me this feeling that is hard to express, and just overwhelming with emotion. It truly is one of the greatest moments in cinema. And then just that kind of the complexity there. Luke is kind of going off, and it's these kind of moments of urgency. These characters kind of parting ways and doing different things, and in these moments of peril, not kind of things being closed when characters then go to different locations to the next scene. The momentum here is very very interesting. We have things being unresolved. That is one of the reasons why it leads then into the next moment, the next sequence, the next act, and I think that is a moment there where of course the X-Wing is lifted, and then Obi-Wan and Yoda discussing there. There is another. These moments, one after the other, this is cinema, and just then Luke going into the final act there, Luke going to find Vader to confront him, and obviously now talking on the final act specifically, wow, obviously we have City in the Clouds being introduced a bit before the final act. Obviously visually this is one of my favourite locations in Star Wars, and just the lighting here, the sets, just all the different characters as well, like Lando, Carrie's in, Billy D. Williams being introduced in this film, midway through this. One of my favourite Star Wars characters. Wow, so jolly, and the way in which he interacts with Harrison Ford, of course, Han Solo. That's a moment I was talking about earlier, where their kind of backstory, it's all felt. It's not really talked about too much. It's just kind of dropped here and there, little subtle hints, and it's just I believe these characters have known each other for many many years, and they've not seen each other for a while, and they kind of are greeting each other with with kind of a sense of of charm here, and despite some complexities being in the foreground there as well. So it's all felt here, and I love Billy Dee Williams in this film. He's so great in Return of the Jedi, but in this film his introduction is perfect, and I love this character. I love Boba Fett as well. Obviously, kind of a callback to The Man with No Name. This kind of mainly silent character in this, and I love Boba Fett. Again, less is more in this one. Just subtle moments. And that's why so many people, me included, are really highly invested in this character, who is just simply a bounty hunter, really, on paper. But the way they elevate even the smallest of characters, really, in this film is truly something to behold. And of course, Lando. I love the way in which he kind of there's this up and down, feeling, kind of setting a trap, for Han Solo and Leia and C-3PO, etc., and Chewbacca. But of course, actually, his intentions are very complex, and he does in the end help them out of this. And it's just this kind of this complexity to the plot, to the characters. This fully rounded film here that is fully complete. It could have ended here, and it would have been the kind of Star Wars film that I love and know, but it does as well, kind of set up the next film perfectly. But we have Lando, helping Han and Leia out, as I say, and at the same time Luke, kind of, just seeing the characters there and kind of crossing paths, but not fully seeing each other there. It's this wonderful way in which this film plays out, interactions, moments where characters are just coming into contact again, and us wanting to see the characters reunite, but it's not at all fully happening in this film, because of course Han is frozen in carbonate, and Luke and Leia do obviously reunite in the end, but it's not the same as for example, New Hope. Everything's changed by the time the credits roll on this film, and it's not a case of it's not as charming for me. It's actually even better than the fact that this is darker, and we're not quite getting what we want in terms of all the characters all together there, we're wanting more. And I think that is one of the key strengths of this film, and kind of not doing things conventionally, actually. And but yeah, no, the characters kind of crossing paths, and Luke, while of course Leia and Han are all kind of things going on there, it's this, they're backed into a corner there, and at the same time we have Luke confronting Vader there, and in that final act. And truly, as I say, the editing between the characters and the way it all comes full circle in that final act is unbelievable. And then we have the duel between Vader and Luke. Truly stunning cinema here, and the greatest duel for me in the Star Wars universe. And just the way it's shot, the use of reds here and blues, obviously the contrast there with the lightsabers, and as well the room, and just the contrast there with the lighting. It's unbelievable. And the sets there, wow. Obviously Vader's costume slightly different to A New Hope, very nice to kind of see in between the Star Wars films, kind of how his suit is slightly different, and in this one it's much more noticeably shiny, and that really it works wonders in those scenes where we have all these reflections. It's just so wonderful, portraying Vader in much more of a menacing way, while not kind of being too much. It's still subtle, but it's much more of a presence than A New Hope. And that duel there, the way it leads into it, and of course in between them fighting, we have character moments. We have then the environment being used so wonderfully, going to different locations there, and then when it's all kind of kicking off, we have of course the character reveal, the character moment there, when we learn that Darth Vader is in fact Luke's father. And this, seeing it as a kid, obviously just wow. And every time I see this, it gets again better and better. It just gives me shivers. Just a line of dialogue, and the way the music is used there. Rarely have I ever felt this with a film ever. It just truly is wonderful. And it's the shock factor of this, the way the music is used, and just the reaction from Mark Hamill here. Mark Hamill and the performances in general at their best here for me, because as well, the characters are forced to, into the most kind of course, characters are impelled the most here. They're at their kind of lowest point in a way, and they're forced to, be more expressive here. The actors and Han and Leia, and especially Luke, being that kind of defeatist moment there. When he kind of learns, of this news, that of course Vader is his father, but then really immediately after them, the sense of hope coming through, and perhaps, he can, something can happen here in the next entry. Perhaps Vader is more than once again meets the eye, and we have just 1, 2, 3, in between this trilogy, a different Vader each time, but still so consistent, and really, I personally, I think in this film Vader is at his best, and Luke is at his best, and the interactions between them, is at its best. It really is something to behold. The Shakespearean element to this film, this is a tragedy, but it's more than just a simple tragedy. It's just so complex and layered, and just we have sad moments, real shocking moments, and then straight after, without compromising the tone and the consistency of the characters, we have the sense of hope, and then the characters coming back, and that is what the Jedi are about, and that is what Star Wars is about, and the Skywalker universe, the saga. It's what it really is, responding to kind of the Empire, responding to the dark side, the light side shining through, and responding with hope, and family, of course, being a big theme, but just in general, the sense of hope and determination. And I think this is not a film where, as I say, it ends in a happy way. It's very much the characters are kind of thrust once again into a new scenario right in the final act, and new things to deal with. But of course, it is for me the film that represents hope the most, and I think the sense of the Force is most strongly felt here for me, and just kind of Luke and Leia at the end there, that final moment when they're kind of watching on, of course, in C-3PO and R2-D2, one of my favourite moments in cinema history, one of my favourite shots, and of course the music there. This film, I could keep going, but just as I say, the structure to this film, Acts 1, 2, 3, it's so sublime, it's so magical, this film, and so perfectly realised and designed, but so natural and organic, and not for a moment is the tone compromised comedy that works perfectly, that only further makes the characters more believable, and the universe more realised, but also more fun for me than any other Star Wars film. The action, as I said, the comedy, the romance in this film, one of my favourites personally, and obviously different characters being introduced like Yoda, the Emperor as well, and it just it really deepens the universe, and it's before the films would focus a bit more on action as well. I think Return of the Jedi, while I do absolutely adore that film, it's much more of an action action, quite a lot, throughout the film, driven film, and nothing wrong with that. I'll say now, I think that's another masterpiece, but this film really takes its time, and it really focusing on, the characters here, and the mythology, and having action around this, but, in such a way, it's so organic, and it's so kind of, it's so character focused, and that's, the things that I love about Star Wars. It's the characters, it's the world building, of course, it's the locations, it's the music, but it's all around this set of characters that are kind of there to allow us to step into this universe. That's one of the things, about fantasy, this being obviously a fantasy film, and, sci-fi, but especially fantasy, is to have grounded, believable characters where we can kind of relate to this character, that character, which can then, in such a way, transport us to a world that we've never seen before. And, these films, and this film in particular, it's just location after location, new planets to discover. The sense of wonder truly is something to behold, and I think the way in which we're always following these characters and seeing it through in a way their eyes, that's the genius thing here about blockbusters at their best, what they can do, but especially Star Wars, and in this film, this is it truly is something, and just the way in which we're introduced to things visually, it's something to behold. The sense of wonder, to this film is simply, for me, unmatched. And just some of my favourite moments, in this series or in this film, comedically as well. We have obviously Chewbacca and C-3PO, moments like that, in the final act, and of course, in general, in City in the Clouds, and just with Yoda as well, and he, kind of hitting R2D2, mine, that moment there. It's just such a hilarious moment, and one of my personal favourites, in the film as well. And all of these side characters, I think really in this film have their greatest moments, their standout moments, most iconic lines in this film, and it's just the whole feeling of this film. It really is the pinnacle of Star Wars for me, and different moments throughout, and just the structure, the feeling, the way in which it moves me. It's the most spiritual experience for me. It has a moment to moment, kind of mastery, the script, the action, the character moments, the kind of the comedy, of course, and the music, just throughout, stunning. But it's the overall feeling, the most mythic for me in the Star Wars universe, and it's the one I'm invested in the most, and most moved by. It's the most emotional by far for me, and obviously we have many emotional moments in A New Hope, Return of the Jedi as well. But for me, this is the middle chapter being the most moving in this series to me, and just I think it always leaves me in a kind of elated feeling after seeing it, and also it's just such a kind of dark film as well, and it has those moments that kind of, it's not afraid to go very, very dark, and the mystery. It really says something where A New Hope, there's so much being set up, and so much wanting to know, and mystery being there, kind of sense of wonder, and then for this film to kind of continue on from that, obviously set 3 years on, and made 3 years on, released, but for it to kind of set up its own kind of things that was never even really hinted at in A New Hope, like Yoda and different things with the Emperor, really, in such a way that it's just a testament to the fact that it's able to, in that sense, top the sense of wonder and mystery, and kind of this universe world building to top of New Hope. It really is staggering, and it really is the most special Star Wars film. So yes, just what can I say? The score as well, wow. Some of my favourite tracks, in the score as well. Thinking on that, is obviously Yoda and the Force. We've mentioned that. Vader's theme in general. Whenever it plays, I just get shivers, and combined with the way he's kind of framed, and the contrast with his suit, and wow, the surroundings. But it's all tied to this. That's one of the things. The score is so perfectly tied to the film, and the characters, and the moments, and the emotions. It really is something. And finally as well, one of my favourites is Clash of the Lightsabers. This obviously moment in the duel. Wow. It just every single thing in that final duel works. In such a way, it's just beyond masterful. It really is. And then the combination, being so perfect for in this film, every element, and the combination. When you get a film where there's a sequence of the stakes being so high, and mystery and what's going on here, but Luke is in his most desperate moment, and Vader, the main villain of the series at this point, kind of fighting him there, and then just that moment when Luke is in serious danger there, for it then to have the reveal just after that, and every single thing working here, the music, and just the fact that they're the kind of the wind blowing as well there on the characters. It's so stunning. It's hard to really comprehend and to actually express just how stunning this final duel is, and the mixture of character reveals and shocking stuff that really was kind of hinted at, but not quite. To see it really is still shocking, even though it's kind of there is kind of subtle hints here and there early on. In the training sequences, it truly. It doesn't stop the shock being, the greatest twist in cinema, for me, and it just, wow, that moment, then the immediate after effect, of this, and the aftermath of the reveal and everything that Luke's going through his head, so much internal conflict there, but it's so perfectly conveyed, and then editing back and forth between Vader and Luke to show that the fact that they have this connection, obviously as father and son, and now that fully the reveal has happened, they can show it visually very overtly there between the two characters, and then of course him speaking to Leia, and them kind of escaping at the end there and looking on. it's scene after scene, sequence after sequence that builds and builds, and when it does, culminate, even though it's not fully wrapping up, it is truly, truly complete, and it just is mind-blowing. This film, The Empire Strikes Back, is something to behold. For me, by far the most magical film in the series, the one that's full of hope, even more so than A New Hope. It's just the darkest entry, but the most fun as well, the most, just Star Wars-like film in the series, and it's just everything about this film is perfection and beyond. It really is one of those films that forget being perfect. It's way beyond that. It's something that's untouchable. It's beyond what really I think films can aspire to, and it sets that platinum standard of for me blockbuster filmmaking and filmmaking in general, where you can have all these big action set pieces, and these franchise elements, but wow, it's really focusing on what, for example, made this franchise, made the sequel happen, because everyone loved these characters, everyone loved this this universe, this mythology, and it focuses on the characters first and foremost, and introducing us to different locations, the sense of wonder, the scale of this is just it's the finest for me. But it's this grand operatic, the space opera, family drama that really is why this is Star Wars, and obviously as well, as I say, the score even greater. The visuals to this film by far the best in the series, and I think the lighting, the framing of the characters, just even Vader. Of course, he's menacing, but how do we heighten that? And that's really make the contrast, something else. The way he's framed in the surroundings, the way in the darker scenes as well. He comes across. It all adds up to the most consistently dark film in the series, but also the most fun and the most magical and kind, I think, and comforting actually film in the series. I feel a sense of comfort when watching this film more than the others. I feel this is handled with gentle hands. I feel, and people that really, really care about the Star Wars universe. Obviously, George Lucas himself being an example of that, and he had a story that he had mapped out, and he just kind of developing it as it went, different things arising and all this, but he really had full creative control over this, as we know. I'm not getting into all the particulars behind the scenes, but it really is. I'm so glad he did get to say exactly what he wanted to at this time, because wow, if this film had been any different, it would have been it's hard to comprehend, really. This film works so perfectly and beyond, that every single choice in this film is the right one, and then some. It's the only choice, really, and that's, I guess, what the best films and films in general should show. When you watch a film, and it's the only thing, of course, that's the only thing that could have happened. It's the only way in which this character and that character could have interacted, or this could have happened. It could have only been at this point where the twist was revealed, and that action piece there. It shows, it really does. It's George Lucas's vision, and all those involved, the love and care from all those involved, the cast and crew. It's just on full display here, and Mark Hamill giving his finest performance. Wow, as well. Carrie Fisher, the wonderful Carrie Fisher, I think as well, giving her best performance, and Harrison Ford, the greatest, Han Solo performance, and do I prefer it to Indiana Jones? His character is always a hard one for me. As I've said in the past, perhaps Indiana Jones is the greatest character in cinema, and therefore better than Han Solo. But it's its own kind of thing. It's up and down. It could be, and one day I could say Han Solo, but it's certainly his best performance as the character, and the most interesting portrayal, of the character, and how he interacts as well with different characters, and B.D. Williams, of course, playing Lando, and how they interact, and just interesting characters like this that aren't necessarily just there to as foils to bring out different character moments for example, Han Solo, but in themselves they're so likable, they're so interesting. Lando is such a human character, as we know, the up and down nature of his motivations. It's unclear at first, but then, you know, it really is well-meaning in the end. And it's moments like this. These are truly, truly complex and so perfectly realised characters in this, you know, fantasy sci-fi universe. That's the main reason why I'm so whisked away to all these locations, this fantastical feeling, and you know, I'm so invested in the lore and the wonderful magical world that they're in. It's also because of, first and foremost, these characters, and you know, that is on perfect you know, display here. And yes, wrapping up, The Empire Strikes Back is one of my absolute favourite films. The characters, the story to this is the most interesting. The score, you know, is beyond mind-blowing. It's one of my top 5 favourite film scores in cinema personally, and the action is the greatest. The duels, you know, of course, the main duel being the pinnacle for me in the series. You know, wonderfully choreographed, character emotions with every single strike of those sabers, variety, you know, progression, and character moments and reveals within that. You know, it doesn't get better than that. You know, potentially for action in general, and that's how you know, if you're mixing character and drama within an action scene, this could be the example of how to do it. Really, certainly a one-on-one fight scene. You know, it's the greatest for me, and yeah, just truly as well. You know, the kind of the world building and just the sense of wonder and scale to this film is unmatched, and this is my personal favourite Star Wars film. And of course, my final rating is 100% plus tier S. You know, an absolute true magnum opus. You know, this is one of my absolute easily 10 favourite films. As I say, it's one of those that's kind of joined for the top 5 spot as well. It's always been one of my favourites, and A New Hope, also a reminder, is in my top 10, but this one is even higher. And I do have, you know, kind of a joint spot just because I can't, you know, I don't want to include all these separate films in the same, you know, kind of work trilogy in separate, taking up different spots. But The Empire Strikes Back, without a doubt, is my favourite of the two and my favourite Star Wars film, and that really says something for them both to be in my top 10. But The Empire Strikes Back is the shining example of how to create a blockbuster film that is truly involving, you know, and moving, and character-driven and human, and the sense of wonder is something to truly behold, ingrained in every single element of this film. The production, you know, the characters, the way they act, the way they truly believe in this world, and therefore we believe in it, and of course the music and the mythology, and characters like Yoda, just wow, truly add another level, you know, of just magic to this film. The comedy is easily the best in this film. You know, just it truly makes the characters even more believable and likable, and yeah, such a charming film. This being an 80s film as well, of course, it's charming. You know, I just love the 80s and 70s, 80s blockbuster films. You know, my favourite area, and hard to top. And you know, when a film is like this, a blockbuster, and it's this good, it really is hard to top in general. And for a film to top A New Hope and to build on this, and to create new conflict, new mysteries, and to kind of wrap up those, and not quite all in one film that's just over 2 hours. You know, it's wow, how do you do this? Genius, that's how, and passion and love and care, and caring about every single element. You know, George Lucas and everyone involved, they cared about every single detail in this film. You know, and how to you know, tell the story in such a way, and to kind of you know, expand on the universe, and you know, it truly shows so much love and care has gone into this one, so much patience with the characters. You know, it's easily the most investing for me, the most fun moment to moment, the best character moments, the romance is at its best, you know, the action is at its best, the comedy, all the side characters that I love and know from Star Wars, you know, C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca, Lando, Yoda, the Emperor as well. You know, it's all at its best here. This is of course my favourite, and it does some things that as a kid, you know, perhaps, you know, it took me a bit later than that to actually realise how much it moved me, and why it moved me, and I still don't know. And that is the magic of Star Wars. That's the magic of cinema. You can't fully sometimes express why you love a film so much, and how how you feel. You just do feel it, and that's the great thing. And we can all have different rankings, but you know, it's to try and express in some way, trying to fathom out, you know, how this wonderful thing that is cinema has moved us and has spoke to us, and why we love this film, that film, whatever it is, and to at least try to express that. That's what I've done in this review, as I always try to do, and potentially never fully, you know, get across, because there's so many things to talk about, especially with a film like this. But yeah, that is my thoughts for now, you know, on this film. The Empire Strikes Back. What do you think of this film? It'll be a pleasure to know, and you know, tell me in the comments. And talk about the original trilogy. Obviously, we'll try to avoid spoilers in the comments for, you know, for example, Return of the Jedi. I've not really talked about that film in this one, but I have, you know, slightly mentioned New Hope and you know, and all this, and so we can talk about these films, and I look forward to that massively. Tell me your experiences with this film, with the originals, you know, particularly. What is your journey with Star Wars? All of us have a different journey, and then we can later on, you know, share this if you want. And yeah, it's great to kind of hear different people's opinions on these films, and their favourite moments perhaps, and you know, how they kind of got into the Star Wars universe. For me, as I say, it's just as far as I can remember, just the VHS special edition. You know, just watching these on loop, and obviously which we get to grow up with. You know, with access to at some point, you know, other films in this series, but never at all really connecting to those on the level of certainly of these films, and never really being that behind, you know, other films in the series. But we'll focus on this film and this trilogy for now, and just, you know, why I love this trilogy so much. It's just pure movie magic, and constructed in such a way that is just, you know, technically it's just perfect, this film, and you know, the script, the human aspect of this, the drama, and you know, just as a space opera, you know, wow, and as a piece of, you know, fantasy really at its core, mythology, almost unmatched, only beaten by one franchise there, and or one trilogy perhaps. But yes, this is my second favourite trilogy in cinema, and this is the greatest for me of the trilogy, and perhaps in general, this is the greatest second instalment, and actually, I will confirm it is, for me, even better than, just for me, The Godfather Part 2. So if you're wondering, yes, that is also my top 10, but this film is even better for me. So yeah, the greatest second instalment in history of cinema, perhaps so, and the greatest Star Wars film, for me it personally is, and we'll leave it there. One of the most mind-blowing, involving, and magical, truly magical and moving films I've ever seen. A spiritual experience like no other, and truly the contender for the most charming blockbuster of its kind, and yeah, truly magical. It truly is, and that's all I'll say. You know, lost for words really with this one. Every time I see it, it just gives me shivers and blows me away, and it really shakes me to the core more and more, and a comfort return, but getting more and more every time I see it, and that is countless times, you know, 50, 60, 70, perhaps 100 times seeing these films in my life, all the way through, and even still, you know, getting better and better, as films really do for me, the best of films especially. So yes, that's it for now. That's my thoughts on The Empire Strikes Back, an absolute magnum opus, and for me, the pinnacle of Star Wars, and perhaps the pinnacle of the 80s, and very nearly the pinnacle of cinema for me. So yes, what do you think? We're great to hear, and that's my thoughts now. Of course, Return of the Jedi will be up next from 1983, and I look forward to that. But for me, The Empire Strikes Back is the pinnacle, the peak of the Star Wars universe. And for me, you know, the most just magical and, you know, most cherished, you know, films in existence to me. So that's my thoughts, as I say. It'll be great to hear yours. And for now, we'll say take care, and thanks for watching.